Welcome to Gold Scratch. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the race motor, and one of the issues is, should I be worried about the fact that I'm building a race motor with a stock block and it only has 2-bolt main bearings? We've actually posted a couple of videos. That engine there is the one will be in my son's race car. He's going to race a Michigan modified car up in Northern Ontario and Northern Michigan this summer. So Dad volunteered to build the engine for him. So I threw it out there. We made a couple of videos already. What do you think? And thank you very much. I got all kinds of great response from people with lots of relevant experience as engine builders, car builders, drivers, about what to use. And we're kind of committed to a path, and I'll describe my justification for it. And you put your money where your mouth is. We'll put it in the car, we'll race it, and we'll see how it does. And we'll let you know by the end of the year whether it performs as good as I think or not. So one of the issues about that block, it's a 406 block. They're getting hard to find. And I was able to find one. I had it fully machined, that Atchison machine. It's been decked and line board, honed, pretty much everything that you could do to it. But it's a 2-bolt block. So there's a lot of thinking out there. You should use a 4-bolt block. And a year ago, I had a 4-bolt, 400 4-bolt block that I bought from someone who had aftermarket splayed caps, steel caps put on it. It was line board. It was a premium block, no question. And if I had that block today, I would use it, but I don't. I built an engine out of it, and I think it made this little over 500 horsepower. It was a street engine, and that engine's going in a 1978 Corvette. So it's sold. It's gone out of here. I don't have it. So I have another one, and it's a 2-bolt main block. So I could, buy splayed caps. I'd have to get a line board again and put 4-bolt mains in it. Now there's an argument on the 2-bolt, 4-bolt main blocks. Some people feel that the 2-bolt block is actually stronger than the 4-bolt block because to accommodate the bolting of the other second set of bolts in the middle. By the way, in small blocks, only the center 3 main bearings are 4-bolt. To accommodate that, it weakened the block. Now I don't know if that's true. I've never studied it, and right now for me it doesn't matter. I just want to show why I'm not worried about a 2-bolt main block. So that's the engine there. I just took this cap out of it for demonstration purposes. That's one of the caps out of that block. So here's the block, the main bearing caps from 2-bolt block. Sorry about that. And here's a main bearing cap from a standard 350. So I made a video 6 months ago or so about Waddell Wilson building NASCAR engines in the 1970s. This is the main bearing cap that Waddell Wilson had to work with. And he ran 7,000 RPM, made 580 or 90 horsepower all day long in NASCAR using these caps. He did some things. He put backup straps on top of them, etc. But basically, that's what he had to work with. So I want to show you why I'm not worried about it. And we're going to also cover off the main causes of engine failure and why this is not going to be one of those causes. But let me just show you the strength of the caps first of all. So Alex is going to come in here. We're going to turn our gram scale on. And there's the main cap of a 350. It's 501 grams. And there's a main cap of a 400. And it's 696 grams. Now, it's not exactly correct, but the mass of the cap has a lot to do with its strength. And you can just look at the profile of one cap versus the other and see for yourself. So if this cap worked okay on Waddell Wilson's NASCAR engine at 7,000 RPM all day long, I'm not worried about Michael's Michigan modified that's going to make just over 500 horsepower. Never see more than 6,000 RPM. One of the things we had Atchison's do, in addition to the line boring and everything, we had him fit all the caps, so you could see the Edges of the caps are knurled where they fit in the register. So one of the big issues is you don't want your caps moving around. If they fit nice and tight in the register, then that's going to help to secure the engine. So I'm not worried about that. But here, what are the main reasons that cause engines to failure? And when you build a race engine, you got to be a little more worried about it than when you build a street engine. So there's 4 reasons. I actually listed them so I don't forget anything. So the number one cause of engine failure, and probably particularly in race engine, is valve train failure. You break a valve spring, or you break a valve, or your keys break or something, and the valve finds its way into the cylinder. It's instant death, it's catastrophic damage, and you'll have white smoke coming out of your header until you get the car stopped. It's the end of its life. So you don't want that to happen. So how do we address that? So you're using trip flow heads. They're pretty good quality heads. We'll show that in the assembly. The heads are built. It's a roller cam. We're using a roller cam. This cam's good to, I think, 6,800 RPM, and we're only going to rev it around 6,000 RPM. Bill Little did a mock-up on his computer program for me, and it's actually going to peak horsepower around 57 or 5,800 RPM. So valve train failure is a big issue. The next one is high RPM, of course. RPM can damage engines. We're limiting the RPM to 6,000. I'm quite confident. I know Bill was telling me he builds lots of drag racing engines. He built 406s for guys that are running them 8,000 RPM on the drag strip without any issue. So at 6,000, we're going to be pretty safe. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. So how else do engines fail? Detonation is the next item, and it's a pretty serious item. So what is detonation? I made videos about that before. Detonation is when you have uncontrolled combustion in your combustion chamber, and it can be caused by pre-ignition, poor fuel, low octane fuel, or too much compression for the fuel, too much quench, all those things. So we're only building this engine about 9.5 or 10.5 to 1 compression ratio. We're using a cam that's already going to have a closing point. I can't remember exactly, around 80 degrees after bottom dead center, and I'm going to retard that cam as well to soften the corners, take a little bit of our torque out of the bottom end and add top end. So I'm thinking we also address the quench. We've had this engine decked. The pistons are just about 2 to 5 thou down the hole, and 40 thou head gasket. We're in the range of 40 to 45 thou of quench. And so we think, we haven't done the final numbers, and we'll do a check. We're going to have only 170 psi of cranking pressure or so. So if Mike uses good pump gas, he does not have to use race gas, and that's a big advantage. Cost-wise, race gas is expensive and a lot messier to handle. You can use pump gas, and this engine should not suffer detonation. So the next one is, how about making a lot of horsepower and torque? What does that do to an engine? Well, yeah, it's hard on it. And here's a point to make. So what's going to happen if you have too much torque? So when you're making torque, of course, you have a piston up here. This is just an old rod. It's actually a short rod out of the original 400. So the connecting rod is in compression when you have combustion, trying to push the crankshaft down. So the rod's in compression, and the rod is almost ultimately stiff in compression. The weakest point of the rod is in tension. So when does that happen? So high RPM causes tension because every time that piston gets to top dead center, it has to instantaneously start going in the other direction. Add to that, if you're driving a race car, and I have personal experience with this, you're going in the corner at 7,000 RPM, you lift, and the engine more likely fail when you lift than when you got your foot on the gas. Why is that? Because when you lift, the piston's going to the top. It wants to keep right on going through the head. And now when you lift, you create a huge vacuum on top of trying to pull the top off the piston. That adds to the tensile forces that are seen in the middle of the rod. And that's more likely to stretch or damage or break the connecting rod. So torque is less of a problem then RPM is less of a problem than valve train failure. It's less of a problem than detonation. Detonation is a serious problem and can cause lots of damage. So hope you find that interesting. Now, one of the things I haven't addressed in this video is if you have a 2-bolt main, you only have 2 bolts, right? Instead of 4. So I'm going to address that in a separate video. When I go to Forsyth College, by the way, on April 30th, my son Mike and I are going to go visit Brian Hambley in his class. Say hello to those guys right now at Forsyth College in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And Brian teaches race car engineering. I've been invited to teach a class about my favorite subject, fasteners. And I'm going to cover off why I'm not worried about 2 bolts versus 4 bolts. Watch for that because I don't want to give all that away right now. I'm pretty satisfied and I'm going to be able to sleep at night, even though I know Mike's engine is going to live between 4,500 and 66,000 RPM all day long, probably 2,000 or 3,000 laps this summer. And we'll take it apart at the end of the year and show you it still looks nice. So thank you for watching. Let's talk about what's going to happen next at Gold Scratch. So in a few weeks, Mike's coming down. I have done most of the mock-ups. I got everything except head gaskets for Mike's engine. I've done all the mocking up. I've done all the clearance checks already. So it's ready to put together. We're going to assemble it together. Todd Brown's 389 Pontiac is the third one. By the way, the Merrick Hangers 400 Pontiac, we just made a video about that a few minutes ago. So it'll be getting published first. So that's number 2 of 3 Pontiacs down. Todd's is last. I have all the parts for Todd's. I'll get to it this week, Todd. And the next one is Tony Guzzo's 302 Z28 Camaro engine. So Tony and his buddy Robert bought me 2 original 302s. We're going to restore these. Basically, this is going to be the ultimate restoration because we're going to restore them as original with all the correct parts. So one of the things, I've already put the cam bearings in this morning. I've got a test cam in there. We're going to put the frost plugs in. I'm going to address the issue of frost plug. Is it a frost plug or is it a core plug? It doesn't matter. And what's the difference? Why do they call it a core plug? In the future video. Watch for that. And thank you for watching Gold Scratch.